All right, everybody, thank you for stopping by. So, there's been a lot of talk about the state of Total War right now, and I don't really put out very many videos of strategy games in general or Total War games, but I really love the old Total War games, and I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in with all of the stuff that's been going on with CA and all that stuff coming out. So, I'm just going to kind of make this video and kind of go over a few of the things that I think went wrong with Total War and CA. So let's jump into it. So just that you can get an idea of my stance on the state of Total War, the last game that I really had the most fun with was Attila Total War. Thrones of Britannia wasn't bad, but I just didn't like a lot of the stuff that they added, like the food cap and the fact that every little independent state had its own. You could take over even like a little farm, and it was kind of annoying when you're trying to defend and that you can only raise so many troops because you need food for it. And it was just kind of, I didn't like a lot of those mechanics, but I liked the graphics and everything with it. So I'm not going to add Thrones of Britannia just because I really didn't like that one too much. Though I say that, I will say that I have played Warhammer Total War and Warhammer Total War 2, and I do enjoy those games. But I will also say that I don't enjoy them as much as I do the historical games like Attila Total War, Rome Total War, and Empire Total War. But I do enjoy Warhammer, and what I like to do when I play Warhammer is kind of like role play something, and I like the fact that you have like people that aren't humans. And sometimes when I play Warhammer, I like to go and say, okay, I'm going to play as the Empire, and my goal is I'm going to play as the humans, and we're going to wipe out everyone that's not humans because we're racist, I guess. I don't know. But it's just kind of fun that you can do stuff like that. But there's a lot of the stuff that like mechanics in Warhammer Total War that I don't really like. And just some of the stuff that I don't really like. I feel like when you're in like Attila Total War, when you're trying to like thread a needle, like there's a gap in the battle and you're trying to like thread the needle, it's a lot easier to do and manage in Attila Total War. And I feel like I've tried, because I playing with my nephew and I did campaign against him in Attila, and then I did a campaign against him in Warhammer. And I played Attila a ton. I have a lot more hours in Attila, I will just say that. And I tried to thread a needle on him, and it didn't work, and like my guys just got distracted, and it would almost just felt like my guys weren't following my orders, and it was getting really frustrating. So I just feel like the controls and the movement on the game isn't as good as the older games. And I also don't like the fact that like you have to rain arrows on people, like 100. You have to have like 10 waves of arrows on an enemy unit before they actually start falling. And I feel like, you know, the original Rome Total War, we had back in the day, that was what they had, but they would just kind of have soldiers die of heart attacks rather than like getting cut down or hit with an arrow. And I feel like we're going back to that where they're just having heart attacks and dying. And there are some animations and stuff, but it's just not as much. And like right now, this is Attila Total War. It's a Game of Thrones mod that I was playing, and I was trying to reenact the Siege of King's Landing, but I had AI versus AI, and they're not the smartest, so it didn't turn out very good. But I just kind of wanted to show the cinematics with it. And like this game is almost 10 years old, and the game looks beautiful. And there's like, I'll be playing like a campaign as like the Vikings, and it's just so cool to be landing Viking troops and having arrows coming. They're jumping off the boat. They're getting hit with arrows, and they're storming up the beach, and you got people dead and dying on the beach. You're going up, you have people like being dismembered. And like the cinematics for it are just beautiful, I feel like. And I mean, there's a lot of glitchy stuff, like right there, they're jumping off the ladder, like, you know, whatever. But I feel like from this game to 10 years from now, what I expected is just not what we got with like Total War Pharaoh and Total War Troy. And I feel like what like Pixelated Apollo said in his video, it feels like they had a lot of success with Warhammer, but then they were kind of forced to make a historic game title. So what they did is they took Warhammer and just reskinned it and said, okay, we're going to take the monsters out, and now we have a historical game. But I think the problem with doing that is Warhammer Total War and historical Total War games are two different games, and they have two different audiences. And that might not be completely true. There are people who enjoy both games, but those games are very different. Like, they're two different games completely. and I feel like that they're just trying to combine them. But the people who play Warhammer and like that fantasy stuff, they like having the dragons and having a magical abilities that are killing groups of armies. They're wanting different stuff than people who want historical realism. And I like having like the historically accurate stuff and the cool battles and having all the. I feel like I like the getting immersed is I think is the best way I can say it. I feel like I'm watching a real battle going on. And when I play something like Pharaoh or Troy, I feel like I'm not watching a real battle. I'm watching something that's super arcadey, if that makes sense. Because it's like you're a big stream of arrows comes and the people kind of half-ass raise their shields and they don't die because they have health bars now, rather than like I think Shogun Total War 2 is one of the best ones that has the coolest like getting units getting hit with arrows, because you can actually see them like they'll get hit in the shoulder and they'll actually like get knocked back, and then they'll keep running, and the people got hit by arrows, or there's some of them are dead instantly, and there's some just sitting there dying, and you can see them like holding onto the arrow like, oh, I'm dying, and like I don't know, I enjoy all that, like kind of makes you feel like you're in the battle and not just like, oh, I got hit enough by arrows so I'm just gonna fall over and just die. But anyways, I'm ranting on that too much. But I'm going to give Warhammer a little bit of credit. Like I do like having like a dragon land and like start just demolishing troops, and like that's really cool, and I enjoy that. But like I don't want that in my historical games. I don't want the stuff that like Warhammer is good as a game that is good on its own. But when you try to like make it historically accurate, and when you've given us stuff like Attila and Rome Total War and Shogun and Empire Total War, like it just feels like we're going back a little bit, and it's like you're trying to just reskin something and give it to us. And a lot of times it just kind of feels like when I'm playing Troy, I feel like I'm playing a mod of Warhammer Total War, because it's the same thing. And like I remember when the Seven Kingdoms came out, it kind of felt like a really cartoony game, and like I didn't even buy that game because it just like I watched a couple videos on it and it didn't look fun, and I just like I didn't really like the way it was going. And the only reason I tried Troy Total War was because it was free on Epic Games, so I played it and I only got a couple hours in it, and I just like I felt like this is so arcadey, and it's just like I just wasn't having fun with it. And then another problem I'm going to bring up that CA does that kind of pisses me off is they'll be like, okay, well, you guys aren't having fun with the game. We're going to add like mythical creatures and stuff, and we're going to make it interesting and pretty much make it Warhammer. Let's admit it. We're going to add these mystical creatures, and it's pretty much going to be Warhammer. So then what I do is I go, oh, I'm going to go try that. And then I pop up there, and what do you know? There it is, but you have to pay $30 for it. So I'll just kind of gripe about that real quick. I hate that if you want to buy any of the expansions, or like in Warhammer, if you want to play a cool faction, you have to fork up like $20 for it or $15 for it. And it's every race. It's not like you pay $30 and you get a bunch of races. It's like you pay $30 for one race, $30 for another race. And if you want to have like all these other races, you have to fork up like tons of money, it feels like, in order to do that. And then like if you want to have the blood and gore mods, you got to fork up another $2 or $3, and it's just like it feels like a money grab at that point. I mean, Shogun Total War 2 released in November 30th, 2011. How come like the blood and gore isn't just a feature in the game? It's a DLC if you want to have it. And it just kind of gets old that every time you buy a Total War game, you got to fork up another couple bucks if you want to have the blood and gore mod. Or not mod, DLC. And if you want to have all the factions, you got to fork up $30 here, $10 here, $15 here. And it just like, it gets super old. And it's like, you know, these games aren't even, I don't even feel like they're good enough to play anymore. And you don't want me to fork up a ton of money. You want me to pay the $70 for the release game, and then you want me to fork up more money just to play more factions, which are pretty much just reskins of the other factions. And the money grab just gets kind of old. Anyways, just to kind of recap my thoughts, I feel like I've been kind of going off on tangents. I feel like where Total War went wrong is by trying to combine the historical titles with Warhammer. And like Warhammer did amazing for them. And so they felt like they had to take what worked for them and just roll with it. But if you think about it, Rome Total War and Attila Total War, they did really well for them as well. They just need to have them two separate entities and work on them separately and take the mechanics and just go two different directions. And I know that can be really hard for a company to focus on more than one thing at a time, but I feel like it'd be really good and it'd make people happy because, like, watching a game like this that's almost 10 years old, and you just think, man, and if you were like playing this when it first came out, you're like, oh, imagine what this is going to be like in 10 years. This is going to be super realistic. And then it's like what we get is Pharaoh, where it just kind of feels like arcadey and even more unrealistic. And I don't know, it just feels like we're going back. And it's just kind of sad to think about, like, that a game that's 10 years old looks better than a game that just released. But like the annoying thing about it is that everyone is like saying what they want, but CA just doesn't seem to like really listen. And how much money that they've just blown away on games like Pharaoh and Troy. I feel like with all that money that they've blown on it, it really wouldn't have been that hard just to have a Warhammer team and a historical team and just have them working on their individual projects and just focusing on the two different like game styles and the game, how the game works, the game mechanics, just having the two different separated ones. And I know a lot of people are just saying that people just aren't interested in historical strategy games anymore. But I feel like with the excitement that everyone had for Mana Lords coming out and all these other games like CK3, I think it shows that people do want historical games. It's just there's not really any competition out there. And there's no one to really keep companies like CA honest and keeping them, because I think the best time where people progress is when they have competition and there's not really any massive like Total War-ish type companies out there making games. And I think if they had competition, it would make them more honest and they'd have to be adding new things and always be doing better. But they just don't really have any competition, so they just kind of put out this garbage and people are going to buy it because people are just nostalgic and just buy whatever slop that they put out. But I'm really hoping with like the big movement that's kind of been going on where people are kind of being more loud about their issues with the game, that maybe CA will finally listen and start making these games the way that people actually want to play them. And like, I don't want to feel like this is going after Total War or Warhammer because, you know, I really do enjoy that game, but I enjoy it for what it is. But at the same point, I like the historical games for how they are. And I don't want to see the two games be meshed together. I feel like that if they were to just go back to the original formula that worked, like with Attila Total War and Rome Total War, and just upgraded the graphics and added maybe a couple of mechanics. And like I was thinking the other day, like I love the economy system in Empire Total War. Like I like the fact that I can kind of sit back and just kind of make money and work on my trade and just, you know, this kind of focus on getting technology. And like when I play Empire Total War, sometimes what I like to do is just play like the United Providences where they have like a foothold in every country, and I'll just make a ton of money and buy technology. And it's just kind of fun. And I wish that they'd kind of like add something like that to a Total War Attila-ish game where it's like a historically accurate game. And I don't know, there's just so much that they can do with it. And I feel like if they just tried it and put out a game like that and went back to like the traditional, like how this game looks, and just maybe improved on the graphics a bit, then I feel like people would eat that up. But it's just like all they want to do is try to make you they want to force people to like what they're putting out, and people just don't. And I'm not saying a lot of people don't like Pharaoh. Some people do like Pharaoh and some people like Troy, but a lot of people don't, and they need to cater to everyone, not just mix mechanics and the different games and try to make one product that everybody likes. If they really want to have success, they really need to break it up into the two different groups, because let's admit it, there's two different groups. There's people who like the historical titles, people who like the fantasy titles, and I guess there's a third group that likes both, which I like both, but you know, I lean more towards the historical side. Anyways, I'm going to end the video off here. I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts and feelings out there because I feel like it's kind of been a big subject right now. And I'll be honest that I just feel like the CA has been taking Total War in a direction that I don't really like. And it's really sad because these games have so much potential. And I feel like if we didn't have the corporate greed in there, that these games could be really a masterpiece that everyone could really enjoy. But I feel like that's just been a common theme with video games and even movies lately. It's just it feels like that they're just putting stuff out to try to make a quick buck, and they don't really actually care about the game. And it's really sad because I feel like you see like a lot of these indie games and solo developers making these games that they can you obviously can tell, like Manor Lords, he put a lot of, like Slavic Magic put a lot of heart and soul into that game. You can tell he loves the subject, he loves medieval history, and the game looks beautiful. And it's like, imagine something like that with the budget that CA puts into these games. And I just feel like it's really sad. And like I said, it has a lot of potential. But anyways, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this subject, and be sure to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. And I might do some Total War content in the future. I just feel like I don't really like playing multiplayer on it too much, because I have more of the cinematics, like doing reenactments and not really caring if I win. Like right here, like I play in the Lannisters and they lose because I just kind of spammed a bunch of Baratheon troops. But anyways, I'm ranting on, but be sure to like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.